What's up, y'all? Oh, I can hear myself. Megan Manley. Hi. Thank you guys for coming. So just a few things before we really get going here. We record the podcast. We record this live just to do a little extra, like give CE credit for fun. But we won't release it on pod channels. I used to say like a week out. We've gotten a little lax, so maybe a couple weeks out, but soon. Then if you parked in the garage, make sure you get your parking ticket validated. And you know what, Brooke? I was just thinking we should, hey, Catherine, we should tell people that going forward that they have the little spaces out there that are not too much in case people don't want to park in the garage. And then, anyway. I know, but it cost me like $3.73. So depending on what kind of day you're having or what the weather's doing. Anyway, we tend to record for about an hour, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. And then at the end, after we finish, if y'all want to ask some questions, go for it. To get us a little warmed up before we actually get going, I have an icebreaker for you guys. And then we'll introduce you and do all the fun things. But okay, so when you're sitting in a yoga class or a learning experience of some kind and they ask for you to like go to your happy place, where do you go? I mean, obviously you sit right there, but in your mind, what's your happy place?
Oh, I know this one immediately. So I've got this cabin and it's in the mountains, but there's a mountain lake there. And I'm just on the porch looking out over the lake, usually with, some tea or something like that. Obviously, my wife's with me. That's my happy place right there. And if any realtors know where I can find that, please let me know.
Washington, Oregon.
Probably.
Vancouver.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think where my mind first went is the bathtub. I'm a bath girl, so I'm like, a spa setup at night sort of thing. That's pretty like peak relaxation, happy place. Also, my daughter and my husband and, spending time with them obviously as well is very happy.
How old's your daughter?
She's almost 7.
So maybe you're back to actually getting some bath time as opposed to like just breaking through the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Front porch with my wife and kids.
That's so sweet. That reminds me of that Lone Star song. You guys are probably too young for that. Remember that front porch looking in song?
Yes.
Anyway, whatever.
That's a good. Did you ask this icebreaker? Did you just watch the Happy Gilmore movie?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I've probably just sat in too many therapy sessions, but
Yeah.
whatever. It's fine. Okay, well, we'll get started. I probably need to turn this down a little bit, but I'll do that in a second. Okay, so welcome to the Real Estate Mailbag. I'm Angie Lawless, and I'm here with my co-host, Brandon Miller and Steve Morris.
We are Wagon Wheel Title, a real estate title company. We have 9 attorneys on staff, and our pledge to the real estate professionals we work with is that we will make you look like the stars that you are and provide your buyers and sellers with a first-class experience. On this podcast, we interview the best of the best in the real estate industry and bring real estate tips, tricks, stories, and news to anyone interested in real estate. We want to hear your questions going forward. You can email us at mailbag@wagonwheeltitle.com.
All right. Today's panelists were selected because they are industry leaders when it comes to production and also excel at executing the basics and really focusing on the fundamentals of their craft. Among many other things, we will hopefully learn a little bit about more today.
All right. So up first to introduce our panelist, Michael Oliveira began his real estate career in Los Angeles, where he cut his teeth on the sale of luxury properties in one of the nation's most competitive markets. Now, after several years living in Nashville, he has made a name for himself as one of the premier real estate agents in the area. His work ethic and major market experience, paired with his mastery of the latest digital marketing tools, knowledge of what buyers, sellers, and investors need for a successful transaction, and all-encompassing passion for Middle Tennessee make him a valued advisor and guide for his clients. Transactions he's handled have appeared in a number of high-profile publications, from the Nashville Business Journal to the Los Angeles Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times. Michael pause. We'll cut that where they laughed at me waving at George. Hey, George Rowe. Michael genuinely loves meeting new people and considers many of his clients friends. He's a strong believer in the personal touch needed for successful real estate transactions and in the power of fostering connections that eventually drive dreams and deliver results for his clients. Away from the office, Michael is most often found in the kitchen or at a new restaurant opening. He's a foodie and home chef with a knowledge of the city's best eateries. Michael and his wife Shelby and their 3 kids also enjoy long walks around Middle Tennessee greenways. Welcome, Michael. Angie's going to edit out all my pauses.
That was beautiful.
So how old are the kiddos now?
Jackson turns 4 in 2 weeks. Scarlett is 1.5, and then we have a newborn that's 6 weeks old.
Oh my gosh, so sweet. And they have the cute, I'm sure you guys have all seen it, but if you haven't, they have the absolute cutest Instagram family photos. Oh, your wife is so cute with her little bump. I'm sure that she's glad not to have a bump for a moment, but super cute. And then we have Jenilee here in the middle. Jenilee Anthony, a top Nashville realtor known for her stylistic, strategic, and relationship-driven approach to real estate. Originally from Dallas, Texas, Jenilee moved here 18 years ago to attend Belmont University and quickly made the city her home, as we do. Same here, college to here, but now living in East Nashville with her husband and 6-year-old daughter. She spent the past decade building a thriving business rooted in consistency, community trust, and earning referrals through exceptional service. With a background in design, a passion for problem solving, and a deep understanding of the local market, Jenilee brings both creativity and clarity to every transaction. She prides herself on being not just a real estate expert, but a true guide and advocate for her clients, helping them make confident decisions and feel at home every step of the way. Welcome, Jenilee.
Thank you.
I'm going to be doing this on my phone as I scroll here. Our third panelist today is Martin Kozicki. He and his wife Shonda planted the seed that would grow into MyRealtyHelper back in 2004. As founder of the area's first independent transaction coordination service, people began affectionately referring to Martin as the godfather of contract to close. And I will say that is true. I've seen his name hundreds of times before ever having met him in person, so this is really cool. 20 years later, Martin's team at MyRealtyHelper now assists hundreds of residential and commercial realtors across the country, having provided services in more than 12 states and in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Arabic, with more to come, which is really cool. Martin regularly consults with agents, team leaders, and brokers alike on ways to improve efficiency while exceeding expectations. He is a firm believer that small changes can yield big results. Martin has 3 children that are grown, and he is now looking for new ways to spend his free time, and we hear he is open to suggestions.
I mean, did you have these kids when you were 15?
I'm a little bit older than I look, but yeah, our kids are 27, 21 this November, and 19 this October. So, yeah, we started young.
Wow. Okay.
Are you sad that they're all grown and out of the house, or are you?
Oh, I wish they were out of the house. No, I'm kidding. Our middle child, she actually moved out earlier this year and then just got engaged a few weeks ago. So we're very happy about that.
Congrats.
Thank you. And then our eldest daughter lives with us, as does our son, but he is probably next in line for leaving the nest. So he's out to conquer the world.
It just doesn't feel like they're grown if they're still in the house, I feel like. Next up, we've got Brandon's Market Minute. Brandon, tell us about it.
All right, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. Okay, so as we sit here today in mid-August, it's time to look back at how the Nashville housing market performed in July. Home sales in July totaled 3,356, which was a solid 3% increase from the same period last year, which was 3,271. Despite a slower start to this year, and we saw a pretty good dip in May in terms of sales. Davidson sales were down about 17% in May. The past 2 months have really demonstrated a resilient and stable market, and July was much stronger than June and May, suggesting that rumors of the demise of the bullish housing market in Munich City are often exaggerated. Active listings were up 20% last month as compared to the same period last year, which suggests there is more choice for buyers. Days on the market was also up a little bit to 50 from 42 last July. Home prices, and this is something everybody is obviously looking at closely, average for single family $524,700, which was almost 5% up from where things were in July, which was right at $500,000. Condo prices, however, were down a little bit. They were down about 2.3%, with the median condo at $344,900. Biggest story, as we all in this room know, it continues to be interest rates. So we've had a little bit of good news on that front. August 14th, which is 5 days ago, there was a headline that this was the lowest interest rates we have seen so far this year. Freddie Mac's number was 6.58 as of 5 days ago. So that's encouraging.
And so we had actually told Brandon that if he reported bad numbers again, like he did last month, he is fired from the podcast. So thank you for getting the stats right this time, Brandon.
You're welcome.
Great job.
Just out of curiosity, is anybody else in here really hot, or is it just Brandon? Okay, Brandon thinks it's very hot. I'm not very hot, but if you're very hot, we can go and ask for things. So we're very, very hot right now. Okay, so you guys give us a little bit of background on yourselves, kind of how you got to where you are and where you are today. Jenilee, you go first.
So I am celebrating my 10th year in real estate, which is very exciting, milestone. And 10 years ago when I got started, I was working in like the startup sales world and was looking for a change. And I had some friends of friends who were in the real estate world and really admired the work that they did. And I felt like the job really aligned with what my passions and my skill set. I love to work. I have always been someone who enjoys work. I find a lot of enthusiasm and creativity, and it just feels exciting to get up and love what I do every day. And real estate provided not only sort of flexibility, but also just this like unknown that of something I could creating my own business, but within a structure that was like already present. And so I was very excited and ready to hit the ground running. 10 years ago, dove in full time right away and just haven't looked back.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. Martin, Michael, who wants to, Michael, go. Martin's got a mouthful of water.
All right, how much time do I have? No,
All the time in the world, buddy.
It was accidental. 15 years ago, I met an agent, and I was at a weird place in life, and he helped me through certain things and a different job that I had. I used to be a stand-up comedian. That was kind of what I wanted to do my whole life. But it didn't work out too well. But I met this realtor, and I was in a dark place, and he helped me get out of that dark place. And after a couple of years, he's like, join my team. And is this thing working? He's like, join my team. And I joined his team, and I was blessed to have an amazing mentor. And I realized that I could use my talent. I love like meeting people and building relationships, and it was always kind of entrepreneurial. So it gave me the ability to use all my tools, and I was really good at it. I made my first big sale within like 2 weeks without a lead, without his help. I mean, I had his mentorship, but without being handed a lead. And I just got bit by the bug and been involved since.
That's super cool, although I heard nothing after stand-up comedy. And so I'm wondering, do you still do this?
No, but you know, there's two things I've been like thinking about a lot lately, and one is I would like to try to do another set
Yes.
at some point.
I will help you organize and get people to come.
It's been like 25 years, but I would like to do another set at some point before I'm like, you know.
We are for that.
All right.
I am all for exploiting Michael, so let's get something going. How about you, Martin? Are you a stand-up comedian?
In my mind, no. My wife would say that I have the lock on dad jokes, but other than that, probably not. Yeah. So I started as I was working in inside sales, and it was a soul-sucking job, and really hated it. And our second child had just been born, and I was looking for a change. And one day I was driving to work in Nashville. We lived in Spring Hill, and I saw the sign. It said Nashville Zoo. And so instead of going into the office, I went to the zoo, and I just literally walked around, thought about life, where I wanted to go career-wise, prayed about it. And I called my wife, and I was like, I don't think I ever want to go back to, I'm not going to say the name of the company, but I don't think I ever want to go back there ever again. And she's like, well, what will you do? And she was working in real estate at the time. She's like, well, you could go do what I do. She was an admin for a successful agent. And I thought, yeah, I think I could do that. That's, you know, you meet new people. It's more exciting. So I started working for a realtor, and it was very clear early on that she just didn't have enough business to kind of warrant needing somebody full time. And so with her blessing, I was moonlighting with other agents and helping them on miscellaneous tasks. And then one day the idea just popped in there. I was like, you know what, we could just be independent. We could do this thing. And I started the business, and we're in our 21st year this October. So, yeah.
That's impressive. Do you think that it was the monkeys or the tigers that gave you more inspiration?
The giraffes, honestly, because they reach high. So.
Obviously. All right, so next we're going to do breaking ground, and I think, Steve, you guys should have a couple articles in your chairs, and Steve is going to introduce them and get, they don't have the articles. So Steve's going to introduce them and get these guys to comment on them, and then we have failed to actually get the articles to them, so you're going to have to really
That's right. I'm going to
them.
have to really describe the articles to you because you don't have them. So that's going to be a challenge. I can show them to you from here. So, yeah. So in this segment, the idea is that we have some recent articles, and we get you guys to kind of react. But it's my secret suspicion that most panelists don't actually read the articles and just listen to what I tell them. So you may be in exactly the same position. But basically, those are two articles from kind of National Coaching Services, and they're advising agents both in their titles to get back to the basics. So one is why and how agents should get back to the basics now. The other one is 10 reasons going back to the basics is crucial for real estate professionals. One talks about what do the basics look like. Daily calls to past clients, for sale by owners, expireds, and leads to offer help with real estate questions to people that you know. The other one talks about treating it like a job, having a transactional mindset, like how many transactions have I done, and really diving into metrics, things like that. So give me your reaction to what do you think should be the focus on getting back to the basics now? Why is there an increased need for it right now as opposed to 5 years ago?
So when I started, it was like in the sort of the middle end of the recession, the big one. I mean, the big one in my lifetime. And my mentor or team lead at the time said that this is the time you get market share. Now, I never really understood it, but he had us double down on building our pipeline because he's like, without leads, there is no business, period. You can be doing everything else, but there is no real estate business without leads, right, or a pipeline. So he had us like just double down, you know, and that just stuck with me since. So now that we're not, I don't know if we're in a recession, but now that we're kind of in like a real estate slump, relative, I guess, I just look at it as an opportunity to build a pipeline. So I go hardcore on it.
I totally agree. I think that the reason why going back to basics is coming back up into the conversation is because I think whenever we see these big shifts in the market, us as agents, sometimes you question, am I doing all the right things, right? There's all this new tech. There's all these new ways to connect with clients. And recognizing what are the basics, I think sometimes is actually a little bit of the harder question. So it's easy to say, go back to the basics. It's like, what is the basics? And some of these, the article, right, mentions some of maybe old school calling FSBOs, things like that. When I'm not saying it wouldn't work for somebody, it might. But for me, the basics is connecting with people. And so what does that mean? Maybe it does mean you're connecting with FSBOs, but maybe for me personally, it means connecting with a friend who's opening a new business in East Nashville. I'm going to go to their opening night. I'm going to go support them. I'm going to tag them on Instagram. I'm going to tell a friend about them. I'm going to, maybe it's planning like a dinner where I bring together past clients and friends. It's face-to-face time, but I think the overarching theme is connecting with people.
Yeah, I really love that part because I feel like there's nothing that makes you feel better than someone seeing you and telling others. It's like I think we all have some moments of feeling like we're just lost in a world and no one like really sees us. So when you point out something like, oh, hey, Michael, like that was so cool. You should go see Michael doing his stand-up routine. It's like, oh, wow, this person really cares about me.
Totally. I think cheerleading people and promoting people, like it's free. It's free to offer a compliment. It's free to encourage people. And so it's it gives me energy. And I think it's reciprocal.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. It's a relationship-based business. And a lot of times you think that things happen organically when that's the case. And for a long time, for us, I mean, obviously our perspective is a little bit different as a transaction coordination service than it is for a realtor, but the fundamentals are still there and similar, and they overlap in interesting ways because a lot of our new business comes organically just by virtue of us working opposite other agents. That's kind of like our transaction coordinators being on stage for an audition, and they get to see what it's like. For agents, very, very similar, but you got to have those interactions. And when you build those relationships and those things happen organically, it feels good, but it doesn't mean that you can't go out there and generate, whether that means door knocking, whether that means attending events, because you're always performing in a way. Michael knows that. So you're always on stage. And in that respect,
that's the new theme now is comedy.
Help you build
Right.
a business.
We've actually moved you out of the real estate space on this. We'll take some of the references out for the mass. But yeah, no, I think that's right. And one thing I was going to say when you were talking, actually, Michael, that I think is so key is what we learned in this down market was we thought we were really, you always feel like you're really great at what you do when you're making money and things are going well. And then when things take a dive, you're like, turns out not so good. But what we realized is that we had to get a lot more referral sources because, if every agent we had was doing 2 deals, now they were doing 1 deal or 0 deals, which meant our business was way down. So the way to protect ourselves was to go out and pick up more people. And I would say that we did grow market share during that time just by focusing on it. And side note, I think you get a lot of excitement. If you're an entrepreneur, which I think real estate agents are, you're doing your own deal, then you thrive on needing a goal and excitement. And if things are kind of down, you got to re-gamify it for yourself. So I thought that was really good.
I think a lot of people, when they say like double down, I think people think cold calling and stuff like that. That's not what I really mean. I think, like Jenilee touched on, it's about conversations and relationships. Like if you just talk to 20, whether it's text or social media or email or a phone call, it doesn't really matter, like as long as you stick to it and it's consistent. But I just think of like, if you have 25 conversations a day, regardless of how it's done, if you have 25 conversations a day, that's 15 100 conversations a month, magical things will happen. Am I doing the math right?
I just don't think I could think of 25 people a day who would want to talk to me.
You could text or Instagram message or email
All right, that's better.
25 people a day easily.
And you don't have to, all of them don't have to want to hear from you. There's a percentage in there. So
More people want to hear from Michael than me.
That's true. It's a funnel.
Angie wants you to talk to more people, Steve.
I was just thinking 25 people. I'm in bed after like the 15th. I'm just like, whew. And the math is pretty amazing how it works up.
It's on. Nope, it's not on. Now it's on. I thought it was on. Yeah. Okay. So tell us what about, aside from sources like Inman, maybe Richard Courtney's column in the Ledger, the Tennessean, Wall Street Journal, what are the ways, the sort of the ways you go about staying really on top of what's happening in the real estate market, both locally and sort of nationally? Start with Martin.
So we have a unique perspective because we work with agents from a variety of different firms. And so for us, that can be a bird's eye view of various trends that are coming because we can kind of see them because we're getting input from a variety of sources. Alternatively, that can be a canary in the coal mine because sometimes when bad things are happening, we start to get senses of those kind of vibes coming from different directions. Those don't always materialize, right? Sometimes there's just a sudden market shift that could be for political or legal reasons or, the NAR lawsuit and things like that, that kind of upset the status quo. But it's interesting because the ability for us to talk to all these different agents who are seeing all these different things and get all these different perspectives, and then we share that with our team internally because we want them to be able to not only provide that additional information to their agents as a source of being able to adjust their strategies and whatnot, but also because it helps us serve them more effectively.
News sources and up-to-date stats. I love learning about what's happening in the market. I feel like even just breaking down at the beginning of this podcast, there's so much power in knowing the numbers, right? Like you see the headlines of a slowing market, but then you hear the numbers and you hear that just as many homes sold this July as last July. That's huge. And then to hear that there's 20% more inventory, well, that's it. That's the key. That's what our sellers are experiencing. That's what we're experiencing. We're not experiencing less sales. And so where those numbers, I feel like a lot of times come from for me, there are a couple different places. One is I'm a Compass agent. We get a newsletter every single morning that highlights different topics, but some have to do directly with real estate and some have to do with just the world at large. And that's been helpful. And then on a local standpoint, Greater Nashville Realtors will send out stats and newsletters that are much more localized. And I try to keep a close eye on those because they've got some great information there. So, and then sometimes, I find myself breaking down those numbers and putting them in like a social post or sharing them with my sellers or my clients. And I feel like it can create so much more, there's clarity and there's like calmness sometimes in knowing exactly what's going on. It feels less scary for both our clients, but then I think as an agent who's building a business as well.
I mean, just ditto to all that. We're lucky that Compass has some of the best minds in the country and locally, and they keep us up to date every day. Yeah.
A very supportive broker.
My sales manager's here.
Yeah, I think it's hard to tune out the noise, and we may get at this a little bit later, but I think it's right. Like kind of no matter what's going on and what's swirling around, just focusing on what you're doing and the consistency is always important. Okay, I'm going to introduce the next section, Path to Profits, where our panelists are going to share tips and stories of success to elevate your game in real estate. So, ask a question.
Okay. As a new agent, you do not have any revenue coming in at first. Presumably, your financial resources are fairly limited. You do have free time to dedicate, but it needs to be focused on the right thing or things. How do you recommend that a new agent structure their day so as to get the highest likelihood of making a sale?
Say that last part again.
So basically, what would you do if you're kickstarting as a new agent to try to do the highest value thing that will turn into a sale or a listing?
It's such a hard thing to answer. Because
and this was leading a little bit, Michael, to the 4-point day system.
I do have a 4-point system. You know, like, let me see if I can gather my thoughts here. Everybody's at different stages in life when they start real estate. You know, so it's not like a easy thing to answer, because I was pretty much homeless. I just got a new apartment. I was 26 years old. You know, like, I had free time. But there's people that get into real estate that I've met, that I meet now that, have 3 kids. They have a corporate job and their family depends on that corporate job. It's hard to answer that blanketly, whatever the phrase is. But the way I was taught to kind of make it easier was that 4-point system, which is as long as I hit these 4 points in a day, my day is fulfilled. So that allows me to not be hard on myself. That allows me to feel like I've accomplished what I need to accomplish. It's basically taking actions and staying out of the results. And I'm happy to share that system with whoever. Well, it's long. It's complicated. It's because you identify what the 4 points are to you, because everyone's in different stages of their life. Because it's a mixture of business and personal. That's what being an entrepreneur is. It's business and personal. You got to know how to kind of juggle the two. It took me a long time to kind of I don't want to say perfect it, but be comfortable with it. Like, people that know me know that I don't work past 5 o'clock and I don't work weekends, which is people think it's impossible in this business, but I'm very strict with it. My family appreciates it, but it took me to perfect that over time. But basically it's, X amount of conversations with people, certain tasks I do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. They haven't changed in years. I do the same thing over and over, One thing I probably could change is social media, which she's really good at. I'm not good at that, because that's another way to have more conversations, But that 4-point system for me is just about hitting your goals. You identify what the goals are, taking the actions and staying out of the results. I'm not sure if this helps.
No, it's helpful. I mean, I think, there are umpteen business books that are, whether it's the Paper Plate Entrepreneur or the Gary Keller, the One Thing, or I could go on and on, that are about, list one thing or list 2 things, or, for a long time I would try to write down, if I do these 2 things today, these are my money makers. If I do these 2 things, I need to get them out of the way early. I generally don't want to do them because I would rather do all the other things with the weight of thinking about doing those 2 things all day and then not do them, apparently. But I think that your point is right. Identify certain activities that are really important to you. Give yourself a sense of accomplishment, once you've done those. And then if the rest of the day goes awry, you're all good.
Correct. And then I just realized the other part of what Brandon said, new agent, what would you do? If you have the time, I would work 17 hours a day. That's what I did. I worked all day, every day. I made 1,000 calls a day. 1,000 calls a day. I was boiler room, but I was also desperate and hungry, so it just comes down to what your goals are,
If you have time, you can do that when you have all day.
Correct.
Awesome. Yeah.
But the 4-point system and that kind of the One Thing, all that kind of stuff helps with when you don't have all that time. How do you boil it down to make it easier and attainable and doable?
Michael, follow up. Is there any one thing that gets you 4 points?
Closed deal and a listing agreement signed. And that's it.
So that's a good day. It's a vacation day.
So
yeah, if I get that full 4 points, then I don't even worry about the rest of the day. I just take the day off, spend time with the kids.
So the idea is that you're gamifying it, and you have certain activities and you can assign them point values, and then you need to in some way plan to get those done.
Yep, and I have it with me because I take it everywhere with me. It's my Bible. So if you guys want to see it, it's right here.
I think that Michael's spot on. It's hard to answer because it really depends on where you are in your life when you're entering the market as a new agent and you're building your business from scratch. So I also, similar to Michael, I was newly married. I didn't have kids. Low cost of living. I was able to just plug in a ton of hours with not a lot of risk, because I didn't have as much responsibility as I have now. And so, but there are certainly agents that get in the market who are single parents or who have kiddos to think about, right? Or even just to have to schedule around. So my answer would probably differ based off of where you are as a new agent starting the market. For me, the most successful thing I think I did for myself starting out was I joined a team. I found an agent who was experienced, who was knowledgeable, and who loved to teach. And she took me under her wing, and I soaked up every second. I would just go sit in the office and listen to her on the phone, talk to agents. How did she speak to lenders? How did she speak to clients? She would let me just ride in the car with her in between appointments. And I just learned as much as I could, real life hands-on experience. And that was incredible. And also, it was a team which I was able to have some opportunity to receive some leads, which was really nice. Not all teams are structured the same way. So as a new agent, I would definitely encourage someone, if they are going that route, to find a team that is providing the structure or the things that they're looking for in building a business. Some people, building that clientele isn't the hardest part. It's actually knowing how to negotiate or how to get through a contract successfully. Others, it is that sort of lead gen, and that is kind of a struggle for a lot of agents. I was lucky, again, to have that team, but then that was kind of part of I love how you've been saying gamify. Like, to me, building the business, building the clientele wasn't necessarily the most challenging part. I love to get out there and meet people, and so I was lucky, a little bit right place, right time, because this was 10 years ago. I had so many of my friends and colleagues were first-time home buyers. So again, it was a little right place, right time that I got to help a lot of people begin their real estate home buying journey at the same time that I was newly licensed. And then what last thing I would say is, with a new agent, if you don't have clients, lean on social media. You have all the time in the world to hone your social media skills. It is such an amazing tool for building businesses now. It wasn't the case 10 years ago. And so now it is like a whole new avenue that there's some amazing agents doing some really cool things out there on social media. So, yeah.
Martin, when agents come, when they first start and they don't have any money, do they invest in a transaction coordinator then, or do they wait until they get more money?
You absolutely should invest in a transaction coordinator immediately, because an independent TC costs you nothing, right? It's one thing to hire somebody in-house. That's an expense. But for an independent service like ours, we bill per transaction, and we get paid when agents do when it closes. So meeting up with a transaction coordinator, interviewing with a TC company, hopefully MyRealtyHelper, but doing that and laying that groundwork, and then to build on what Michael and Jenilee said, part of that, when you have that time and you're building that, it's not just lead generation, but it's also building your network, because you're going to need lending partners, inspectors, title and escrow companies, right? And not only that, but there's other vendors that are not as often used that might be more applicable to your area. I'm thinking like septic companies and things that people don't often think about, EFIS, Drive It, that sort of thing. Having vendors that you've already established relationships makes it easier for agents to get appointments when they start getting business. It makes it so that you already have those established relationships and you can recommend those vendors to your clients. But in addition to that, those companies are also networking with individuals. They're networking with realtors. They're networking with buyers and sellers. They have friends who are first-time home buyers. that's where leads come from. There's been multiple times where we've started working with an agent fresh out the gate, right? Brand new. This is their first transaction, or maybe they haven't even gotten one yet. Shanda and I had breakfast with a realtor not too long ago who she got her first lead from us because we had a personal friend that was selling a house in her neighborhood. And so she was qualified to list that property because she had firsthand knowledge of the community. And so absolutely. We refer, people to the agents that we work with. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've given Michael a couple of leads.
We got a lead from you.
Yeah, that's right. So again, this goes back to what we talked about earlier about the organic nature of the business, but it's not just clients, it's within our industry as well.
I think that's a great point about, especially for a new agent. They're going to look so much better with their client if they're using someone like Martin for especially their first couple of transactions. The difference, because then it really does make everything go so smoothly. It makes us look good, and there's just not big things that get missed, which happens, especially, if you're brand new at anything, you're going to make mistakes. It just really cuts down on those, and your client's going to feel much more confident. So I think that is, advice we would definitely give is if you're a new agent, start out from the gate using a transaction coordinator.
Yeah, and I mean, my thought on that is just it seems so obvious, right? A good salesperson, George, if I go wrong here and overstep, but this just seems so obvious to me. It's like a good salesperson needs to be selling. That's where the money is. Like sell. Like, and if you're getting bogged down in small, minute things like did the contract get, they matter. They're really big things, but okay, let me rephrase. If you're getting bogged down in small, minute things that other people can do other than the expert salesperson, then it makes sense to offload that because your time is much more valuable out hitting the pavement, showing up, and networking, I would think.
Definitely. One of the things that we say to the agents that we work with is, especially if you're newer and you're maybe debating getting a transaction coordinator or they're kind of new to working with us, is are you a realtor or do you want to be a TC? Because you can't be both, or you shouldn't be both. You're either doing one or the other. So which hat do you want to wear? And if you're the agent and you're handling all of those things yourself that normally would be assigned to a transaction coordinator, well, then you are the TC, right? So go be the agent. Let us handle that. Let us take that off of your plate. That's why we're here for. Lean on us. And it frees them up to do all of those other things that they wouldn't normally have time for.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see new agents make when you first start working with them? Because you're also being on a team, you get a mentor, and working with a transaction coordinator seems like it's also a bit of a mentorship education process.
Yeah, I think some of the easy ones there are just mistakes on contracts and on documents. I can't tell you how many contracts we get in a week where there's no holder for earnest money filled in, which, you had a buyer, a seller, a listing agent, and a buyer's agent all review that document, and yet it's missing one of the most critical and often the first task that needs to be done is turning in earnest money, right? So as TCs, we get those and we start freaking out because we're like, where do we tell the buyer to send these funds, right? So then an amendment's needed or something like that. The other thing is not being an active participant in the process. There are some agents who feel as though, I have this assistant or I have this TC, so I can just throw the contract at them and then check out, and then they can just call me if they need me. But it's very much a symbiotic relationship, right? And there needs to be communication because that's how it succeeds. And it's very important for agents to be involved in things like the inspection process, talking to their client, making sure that they're setting those expectations, because that's the other issue is that people don't set expectations and then nobody knows what's happening, and then they don't know where to show up or what to do when they get there. But having those conversations, I know Michael's really good about that, especially with sellers. He's great with listing appointments and sellers. By the time that I start working with them, they are already very well versed in what's going on throughout the transaction. It makes my job as a TC a little bit easier in that respect, and that's very important to creating a successful environment.
That kind of makes me think of another question, Martin. So, a title company's business is a couple of different kinds of closings. Like you have purchases and sales, which you guys are most involved in, but also there's a lot of refinances. Not right now with rates what they are, but 3 years ago, and hopefully next year there'll be tons of refinances. And when you're closing a person, you're just trying to make conversation with them. And one of the things I often go to is, whenever you bought this house, like, who was your realtor? What were they like? And the most common response is, so if you're listening to this, you won't be able to see it, but if you're watching on YouTube, you will. This is the most common response. It's like, they like gaze off into the distance. And my thought is, this is the person you've done the largest transaction you're going to do in your life with, and you don't remember their name. Like, how is that possible?
Until the next transaction when they don't use you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Until the next time the house is listed and they don't use you. So, and we saw, I think, kind of during the pandemic, there was just from a whole bunch of different professions, including title, right? Because you had a lot more non-face-to-face closings, just a lot more not going to all the meetings and things like that. Tell us, kind of in the back to basics thought, like, how do you stay in touch with your clients? What things do you think it's important to show up for? And then after the closing happens, how do you make sure they remember your name in 5 years when I ask them what it was?
I try to stay a part of every portion of the transaction. So, after COVID, I no longer, for the most part, take clients around in my car. But other than that change, I am in person for every inspection. I'm in person for in-person buyer meetings, listing consults. I was shocked to hear that story. I can't imagine. I mean, maybe I do have a client out there that doesn't remember me. I hope that isn't the case. But not only try to make it a memorable experience for them, but just make it so personal and tailored for them that they feel that they have a trusted advocate. Like, if you're doing that, you should be remembered. What Martin was saying of having also a team of vendors and people around you, like creating that sort of transaction for a client, I think also helps in solidifying yourself as their go-to person, right? Because you were the person that then connected with them with all these great professionals through the process, that then whenever after closing they need another professional for something that their HVAC goes out or something, I don't know, or they have a question about the neighborhood, that you're the person that they want to reach out to. So as far as after the transaction goes, my outreach, I try to stay as in touch as possible in ways that feel natural to me. So I don't do a lot of like the cold calling after closing, but a lot of it is social media. It's been one of the greatest tools for me to stay connected with my clients in a way that feels fun and approachable, and just like we get to be a part of each other's lives, but it doesn't feel so salesy, I guess. So social media, but yeah, I would say those are kind of maybe the main things that I am a part of throughout the transaction.
I don't even remember myself sometimes. No, that's like my biggest fear is someone, maybe it's a whole comedian side of me, I don't know, but like not being remembered, or or not being thought of. What's that old saying? It's like, there's like a saying. It's like I struggle with I struggle with the challenge of wanting to not be remembered or something. I'll think of what it is. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit more old school. I do try to call, but now that my database, my past clients list is getting larger and larger, I'm open to, social media and some other aspects of staying in touch. But I email, I text, I call. I'm about to do a fall pumpkin patch, like client event, basics.
Well, I think you brought up a good point. Just in talking about the pumpkin patch, I'm thinking about the fact you've got young children, and oftentimes we, as entrepreneurs, do what feels natural in our normal life, and that seems to follow. So, like, you want to take your kids to a pumpkin patch? Yeah, I think I'll do a pumpkin patch.
My wife loves pumpkin patches. She loves every holiday, Greek name days, every holiday there is. She's into it.
That's amazing.
I think too, something kind of looping back to, we were talking about like how to maybe start your business or like lead generation and like being involved. It's just one example from a couple of weeks ago. So I live in East Nashville. I do a lot of work in East Nashville. And so because of that, because my business has stayed, or I don't know, I work all over Middle Tennessee, but because a good portion of my business is my own neighborhood and community, sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit just down, I'm like, you know what? This week we're going to the Air Park concert, and not this last concert, but the concert before, I walked in, the person giving the ticket was a past client of mine. I walked in, within 2 seconds, I saw another past client, ran up to me. I hadn't seen him in 2 years. And he came and said hi, and I got to meet his new partner. And then, by the time I left, I had seen 4 or 5 past clients, but then also just other friends in the neighborhood and community. It felt so great to just stay top of mind, be remembered, but then also to feel a part of just like a neighborhood and community. And that's what we're building as agents. We're building neighborhoods and communities. And so sometimes it's just get out of the house, go somewhere, go do the thing.
Don't be a secret agent.
But I think you took a dad joke from you. Okay, so last segment around the wheel where we talk about some real life situations, and just to kick that off, as title companies, you go to some networking thing, you see somebody and you talk about the market being bad or the market being good or that, and is there a bad time or a good time to become an agent, or how do you guys deal with this noise?
Real estate is closing every single day. There's a sale every single day. Good market, bad market, it doesn't matter. I know, there's agents in my office alone that are doing more business. We just had our best year. People are doing more business than ever on this. And, but when you talk to other agents, they're like, the market sucks, or interest rates. I'm like, the market is the market. It just is what it is. There is no good or bad market. Deals happen every day.
I think to that point, it's like you don't need a high percentage of that market to be really rich. So those deals are happening, even if the market's going down or it's up. This is a bit of static noise, right? You do you. Do you guys feel the same way?
I think each market has its challenges for sure, especially for a new agent. So I don't want to downplay that coming into a market, coming to any market has its challenges, right? If you came in the market in 2020, yes, you had buyers galore, but you lost 7 offers before you got a buyer under contract because it was just, that's the numbers game, right? And you didn't really know how to write a very good contract because you were brand new and you didn't know the other agent on the other side, and it took a lot longer for you to get your buyers under contract. So every market has its own challenges, and this one does have its challenges for sure, right? Listings are sitting longer, and it's the sort of sentiment out there is sometimes those can create some challenges and challenging conversations for new agents to handle for sure. But it's not impossible, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad time to become an agent.
And that's not necessarily whether you're new or experienced, because we hear from agents all the time who, some have been in the business for 15, 20, 30 years, and they'll call us up and they're like, is it slow for all of your agents, or is it just me? I'm like, honestly, it's probably just you right now, because everybody else, I've got 10 contracts this morning from everyone else.
Is that the couch time?
That is, yeah, we call that couch time. It's like therapy sometimes with some of the agents that we work with. And that's okay. You got to kind of talk them through it, because I don't think that matters how long you've been in the industry from that perspective, because we're all human and we kind of fall into these patterns. But at the same time, there's opportunities to break free from that. And like Michael mentioned, real estate, everything's closing all the time, every day. There are opportunities out there. Now, if you've been selling at a particular price range or a particular area, and maybe that's not doing so hot right now, you can pivot. And that's an opportunity for a whole new segment of your business. And take the chance, or like Jenilee said, do the thing, right? Just get out there and make it happen, because the business is there for you. And it's just a matter of capitalizing on change.
I think that comes down to pipeline, the basics, leads and pipeline. Because like when I got into real estate, I would go on listing appointments, and sellers would ask me, how long you think you need to sell my house? And I would say, give me like 6 months to 14 months. Give me a year to 2 years, And I think what's happened is everyone is expecting quick results, but if you can't live off one deal every 6 months. So having a pipeline and lead generating, whatever that lead generation looks like to you, but having a big enough pipeline, you're part of that system of closings happens every day by having a big enough pipeline. There is no good or bad market when your pipeline is huge. There isn't. It is what it is.
Okay, that brings us to our mailbag question. Okay, question. I'm studying for my real estate exam, and I'm trying to figure out logistics once I have my license. Should I work from the brokerage office that I'm going to affiliate with, or is it okay for me to just kind of work from home if I'm productive at home? What would you advise?
Go to the office. Go to the office, be around other agents, or go to the coffee shop. Get out of the house. Whether it's you go to the office because you want to be around other agents that are successful and you're learning from them just by, again, observing or listening in or having conversation, or go to the coffee shop to get out so that you run into your neighbor, your next door neighbor, and then all of a sudden you're having a conversation. Get out of the house if you're new.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, dress for the job you want, right? So definitely.
Okay, so as we wrap this up, I'm going to give you guys a second to tell where people can find you, and also let's leave the listeners with one tip if you're a new agent. So one tip and where people can find more about you.
You can find us online at MyRealtyHelper.com. We're also on various socials. Definitely reach out to us. We're happy to help consult with agents at any time. We can do Zoom or an in-person coffee meeting if you'd like. And what was the one tip? Hire a transaction coordinator. Make that your first hire, because they will help you become the best agent that you can be.
Well, and just like, I know, so sometimes when you have, two agents and then you have a transaction coordinator, people may be thinking, we don't know why you did that. But I think the reason that we did that is we've seen plenty of deals where you go out, you make the sale, you've done the hard work, you've got it there. And then the thing that people really, really need, though, is that communication, the nerves, the calming through the rest of the process. And so having somebody who can cross T's and dot I's becomes very, very important. So it seemed like a natural.
And that free couch time.
Making sure everyone has Amendment 4, things like that.
Exactly.
I know nothing about this couch, but it sounds great.
You can find me on Instagram, Jenilee in Nashville. Also, I have a website and things, but follow me on Instagram. That's more fun. And then my one tip for new agents will be to find a mentor or a partner or a team lead or brokerage that really focuses on education. Take one of those avenues. Find someone that you can look up to.
So I'll touch on Martin real quick. I would not be where I am today without Martin. I use a transaction coordinator on my very first deal and my very last deal. I would not be where I am today without Martin. He's become a really good friend of mine. Advice for a new agent is, I would say, take action, stay out of the results.
All right, as we get to the near the end here, we always like to ask our panelists, who would you recommend either for topic or to be on a panel that somebody you think is, really interesting topic, really interesting person that would be a good future Real Estate Mailbag panelist?
As an agent, I wouldn't mind hearing from like a panel of appraisers, I think sometimes there's some mystery around appraisals, and you can have two appraisers appraise the same property for wildly different values, and it's such a crucial part of the contract that can throw things. So I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit from some appraisers.
A therapist.
Sounds like too maybe business coaches. Sounds like that's been
Absolutely.
a big part of your success. It sounds like you really are a big fan of having a coach.
Therapy and coaching.
My mind actually went the same place as Jenilee's. I think we don't know enough about the vendors that we work with because they're kind of like people behind the curtain. And whether that's a lender that educates agents on what exactly does happen during like an underwriting process, because you have this vague idea but you don't really know, or what happens during the title process. How does a title search work? Why does some title searches take longer to come back? These are inquiring minds want to know, right? And that can help them speak in a more educated fashion to their clients. They look more like experts, but also it reinforces the experts that we have within our vendors, because we lean on you guys just as much as you lean on us. And I think that's important. So yeah, appraisers or title or an underwriter or lender representative.
All right, well, that's a wrap for us today. So submit any ideas for future episodes and real estate mailbag questions to mailbag@wagonwheeltitle.com. Thanks to our panelists again for being so great and coming on and being vulnerable in your shares. And thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. And we'll catch you guys next time on another episode of the Real Estate Mailbag.